Very good afternoon to all. I'm Mohit Rampal from RAPIFUZZ, and we're here at the IndiaSoft Expo at Bharat Mandapam. Today we are introducing our product called APIFUZZER. The product has been constructed in India. It's a pure Make in India solution with the entire development team sitting out of India. As you see, the highlights is that the market is moving towards API security because the number of attacks and breaches happening around APIs are increasing as we talk about it. Even last year and a couple of years, you've been noticing that APIs attacks on API attack surface has been increasing. As we move forward towards looking at digital technology, words like APIfication, which means more of consumption of APIs, which started off in the COVID era, when organizations started using more and more of APIs because of the fact that they wanted to get closer to the client, which meant you had to be quick to react to market to the requirements as the organizations required. When we talk about APIfications, we are also talking about the various strategies or organizations are using. API security is no longer the problem of the organization, it's a board issue. And as we speak, we do get a number of areas where organizations are very keen to understand what the total number of APIs being consumed within the organizations, how they are being constructed, and how they can protect themselves. API security is not just about protecting when you're attacked, it's more about shifting left, which is talking about how you can secure your APIs before going into production. When we talk about API security out here, we're looking at a couple of key points which is governed by OWASP 2019 and 2023. Just to give a live example, we were talking to one of our clients earlier when we launched this product as a beta version, and the first problem statement they came back and said is, I don't know how many APIs are being consumed within my application. And when he got his head of infrastructure, he said they've got more than 150 APIs, but the developers said they had not more than 65 APIs. The security team had only tested around 80 APIs, so you could see a huge disparate information about the number of APIs within an application. That gets us to the first problem, which is discovering of APIs within an application. Traditionally, when we speak to people in the industry, they are normally using the traditional APIs, the AppSec products to discover APIs, which is not the right case. They manually discover those APIs, which means they look at a response and request data coming in from the browser, which means it boils back to the organization, which means how much knowledge does their security guy have. When we speak to organizations, the first challenge statement they can come back and tell us is most of the people are very focused on application security and the knowledge about APIs is very, very limited. And organizations do lack the security skills. So that's one of the biggest challenges we have seen is during the discovery phase, the organizations use traditional tools and the discovery of APIs is solely dependent on the knowledge of the person who's discovering it or the VAPT or security engineer. Another challenge statement is discovering APIs. Apart from that is to find out the vulnerabilities. Every single security professional we talk in the market, their knowledge about API security is very limited. They always confuse app security with API security, which means it boils back to the problem statement of discovering security issues on an app, not the API. Here we are going to talk about how do we discover API security. So the biggest challenge organizations do tell us when we talk to them is the fact that I don't want an agent, I want it to be as seamlessly smooth as possible. I want it to be integrated into my CI/CD or DevSecOps pipeline. I don't wish to have those API security issues of having agents across my organizations. So it's important for organizations to see that the solution is clientless. It's important to see that you don't have to spend so much of time on educating your people because people take a lot of time to understand the difference in API security. I'll give a very use case we discovered during our beta testing of our product. We had a case where we had a prospect from south of India, a large financial services company, and the biggest challenge was they had their application being tested or vetted by, you can say, a green application tested by VAPT engineers. Now, they discovered 0 vulnerabilities, and the CISO of the organization said, Mohit, if you can discover a 0-day vulnerability for our APIs, we are good to do business. So we started a POC on a Friday, and the next Monday we reviewed. So look at this. A typical discovery process for 150 APIs for a security engineer would take approximately a week to 10 days. Our solution is able to discover up to 150 to 200 APIs within an application in less than maybe 45 minutes to 1 hour, which means you're drastically saving more than 95 to 97% of your time in discovering these APIs. Second important aspect is, like I said, of the security testing. On an average, a security developer takes around 4 to 5 hours to test an API for a single vulnerability. which means if you had more than 20 or 30 vulnerabilities, which means you are going to spend more than a week or 10 days in discovering it. APIFUZZER is an automated solution where we can discover APIs in less than around, let's say, 3 to 4 hours. We can test those APIs for security vulnerabilities as per OWASP 2019, 2024, SANS 25, and we are also coming with PCI DSS. Now the biggest challenge, like I shared earlier, is the knowledge of the person who is discovering and testing those APIs. It's limited. Now, to give a use example, going back to the use case which I was talking about, this financial company, they gave us an application which was tested, no vulnerabilities. During the POC and when we discussed the results, we were discovered 2 zero-day vulnerabilities. One was called as a broken object level authorization, where it means any object could be utilized by any employee, including a guest. The second vulnerability, which was called as a broken function level authorization, resulted in that vulnerability. Of course, the prospect says it doesn't exist. The VAPT or the security engineer said it doesn't exist. When we reviewed the test cases with manual testing by the security engineers from the company side, they discovered that we had discovered 2 zero-day vulnerabilities in their applications. The entire process of discovering those vulnerabilities took us less than 15 minutes. They were spending maybe around 15 to 20 days in discovering 20, 30 vulnerabilities. We discovered 2 vulnerabilities in less than 20 minutes. So our solution is purely automated. It's completely, you don't require too much of knowledge about the APIs. It has more than, I would say more than 300 to 400 test cases for each type of OWASP vulnerability, which means we're talking about OWASP API top 10, A1 to A8. We are able to discover those vulnerabilities in less than 15 to 20 minutes to half an hour. If it's a very large complex application, we would take approximately 2 to 3 days to discover a complete testing. So we support 4 types of testing: a complete testing, which means you could take around 4 to 5 days in exhaustive testing, and then we can take around, just to test the OWASP top 10, maybe 1 or 2 use cases, it'll take you around 15 to 20 minutes. So you have got multiple ways to do it. We also have the capability to ingest data. Now it goes back to a grade A statistics class where he says you have more amount of data, your results are far higher. So we allow you to ingest data of discovering APIs clientless. We can have a template format like you can say a specification based, like you can upload a Swagger file or a GraphQL file. You can also upload data from your Postman and the other methods. So we got more than 7 different methods, including integration with the gateways. So typically for IndiaSoft, what we want to share with people out here, all those people who are MSMEs or Indian companies who would like to test their APIs, if they come to our booth F440 during this period of time, they would be getting an access to utilize the API security at 0 cost. That's only a freebie if you are registered with ESC and with the IndiaSoft forum. Thank you. Have a nice day.